Hi, this is George with NS345. Welcome back. If you're in America, happy Thanksgiving. Today I continue to work on the song Ready to Begin by the local Houstonian band Zion Road. On the last video, I got to where I did a static mix. Today, however, I'm going to adjust the levels on the static mix. I want to take a different approach. I was thinking through some things and thinking through gain staging. So I want to make sure. So the strategy that I want to have on this mix is I want to do the static mix, and I don't want to mess with the faders anymore. If I do mess with anything, I want to mess with the plug-in faders or the input and output levels. And also, I'm going to mix this song in pre-fader mode just so that we can understand, so that we can pay attention to the levels. But I want to make sure we're still using our ears and not necessarily just looking at the meters. We are going to look at the meters just for a visual aid. But let me just get to it and explain as I go. So basically, if you look at my levels just now, so if you look here, I want my optimal level or my mix level, my final mix level to be at minus 18 dBFS on the average, RMS. Okay, so what I want to do then, so that I'm not allowing myself to get into a situation where the plugins are adding a lot of gain and then I make myself think that I'm actually doing something with the plugins. So what I want to do is I want to get the levels to minus 18 dBFS now, and as I start to add plugins, I want to adjust the input and output levels so that the meters remain the same and my overall level remains the same. So the changes that we do are subtle, yet the mix will still sound really processed. One thing that I'm going to do different today is I'm also going to mix in pre-fader. This is going to allow me to compare the meters on the faders to the meters on the plugin. And I'm also going to use my ears, not just necessarily the meters, the visual of the meters, but I want to ensure that I don't deviate too much from the optimal level that I had in mind. So let's pay attention to the levels here again. So if you notice, the average is really low. I want my average to be over here. So let me work on the static mix a little bit to see if I can get it up there to the minus 18 dBFS mark. One thing to note is that what I want to do also to keep my signal staging, my gain staging consistent, I want to make sure that my buses, because I'm using a summing type setup where I'm sending my buses to stems, I want to make sure that what I'm sending to the stems, it's also averaging around minus 18. So somewhere around here. Okay, so the peaks could be above that, but I'm going to keep the average level around there. So let's look at the drum bus. So the drum bus looks okay for now. Let's find somewhere else where we can adjust the levels or bring up the volume a little more.
Behind, I stand here alone and hold on to what's mine. words that were spoken, making noise in my head. So many times tried to push them aside, and they still come back. Try to keep fear alive. Now the time has come to leave them behind. I stand here alone and hold on to what's mine. Regrets. To whom much is given, much is required. So I wait for you to ignite this fire. Just give me compassion and the love I won't forget. Keep my people safe, forgive my sins, here I am. All the words that were spoken, making noise in my head. So many times tried to push them aside, and they still come back. Try to keep fear alive. Now the time has come to leave them behind. I stand here alone and hold on to what's mine. Everything you said, all the words that were spoken, making noise in my head. So many times tried to push them aside, and they still come back. Try to keep fear alive. Now the time has come to leave them behind. I stand here alone and hold on. Everything you said, all the words that were spoken, making noise in my head. So many times tried to push them aside, and they still come back. Try to keep fear alive. Now the time has come to leave them behind. I stand here alone and hold on to what's mine. Everything you said, all the words that were spoken, making noise in my head. So many times tried to push them aside, and they still come back. Try to keep fear alive. Now the time has come to leave them behind. I stand here alone and hold on to what's mine. Now I stand in the present. Now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Bobby line every chance I get. Face these H-town streets, hold my own, no
Gonna adjust the snare. I'm actually adjusting the clip gain. Okay, so one thing to focus on is the levels also of the track, so that when I put the plugins through, the levels going into the plugins will come in through nicely, and I won't have to do much adjustment on the clip gain or the original signal, and I'll be able to hit the sweet spot of the plugin. Most of them are calibrated to minus 18 dBFS. Okay, so now if you look at my VU meter, I'm averaging around a little bit under 18. If you look at my BX meter, which is showing the meters going up and down, I'm hitting around the minus 18 area.
Well, I detained myself, look back in time, didn't know where I was going, still turned out alright. Now remember everything you.
So it's still a little bit under, but I think that's okay, because then we can use a little bit of gain to our advantage, but we're not too far off from having to make those decisions to get to our optimal level. So I'm going to put my meters back over here. One thing that I didn't work on was the loop. Let's see what I have. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do to start this mix off is I'm going to auto align the drums. The way I align the drums, basically I use a plugin called Auto Align from Soundradix, and all that's going to do is line up my drums so that, because we're using multiple mics, the sound reaches each mic at a different time, and it's only off by seconds. So Auto Align is going to make this process easy for me, or faster. The one thing I did is I should have done auto align before I cleaned up the tracks. So I'm going to go back to the old tracks, to the original. I'm going to go to the playlist and put back my original playlist for the drums. And I'm only going to do this while I auto align the tracks, and then I'll go back and go back to the other edited tracks. So all my tracks are selected at the bottom. You can see they're selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift Control Option, and I'm going to throw Soundradix Auto Align on it. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to use the snare as the lead instrument. This is going to drive the signal to the different mics, and I'm going to align everything to the snare for the most part. But let me just walk through the process instead of talk about it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to align the top snare with the bottom snare. So I'm going to grab the first instance of auto align, and I'm going to send on channel 1 or bus 1. And the bottom snare is going to receive it on bus 1. And I'm going to solo the snare, bottom and top. So right now I have the bottom snare up, and you can look here, SB. And I'm just going to hit detect. I'm not going to do the polarity option on when I detect the facing of these tracks, because I want to do that manually, and I'll show you how. what it did is it offset the bottom snare track by minus 47 samples. So let's listen to that. So I'm not even looking at the polarity on the waveforms just now, but I'm gonna see what the phase reversed joystick here does to the sound of the snare. So actually, I don't need to reverse the polarity. So just offsetting the bottom snare to the top snare is improving the sound a little bit. Let's see if you can hear it. Bypassed, bypassed. Engaged. Okay, it's clear that that did a lot for it. It makes it sound a bit beefier, a bit more punch to it. Now I'm gonna take the snare top, and I'm already sending the snare top on channel 1. And I'm gonna send the snare top to the left overhead. And I'm gonna receive on 1. Same as the snare bottom. Why do I want to do the left overhead? Because usually the left overhead is right over the snare, kind of bit to the left. It's not directly center. What's usually center is the kick. Okay? So let me do that. I'm going to detect. So I have the overhead left and snare top soloed. Okay, let's see if we hear any audible difference. There is definitely an improvement there. So the overhead left was offset by minus 59 samples. I'm going to flip the face, bypassed. Okay, I'm going to leave it off. Now I'm going to align the left overhead to the right overhead. So I'm going to solo these two. I'm going to send the signal on bus number 2 or channel number 2. And I'm going to receive the right overhead on 2. And I'm just going to detect. When you see me moving these tick marks here is I'm trying to get above the noise floor level, just clear up the noise a little bit to allow the detection to be a little smoother or a lot faster. And you can see that by how dark the coloring is on here. Let's see. So you see a lot of the noise is way up the top on that one. Okay, and that's supposed to help me do this faster and smoother. So let's detect it. Both overhits are not solo. Bypassed. You could hear that when I reversed the phase there, things just went south. It just not sounding good. Okay, so the drum recording was actually done quite good. Not a lot of phasing going on. So now I'm gonna move on. Normally I don't touch the rooms, and I'll come back to the rooms. I'm gonna try something different today. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave these engaged. Now I'm gonna align the kick with the bottom snare, because the bottom snare is closer to the kick. So I'm gonna send the bottom snare out of 3, and I'm gonna receive the kick in 3. Okay, so I'm gonna solo the kick and the bottom snare. Those two. Okay, immediately you notice the change on those two mics. The adjustment was plus 11 samples. Let's listen to it bypassed. Okay, I'm gonna try and flip the polarity. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the polarity button off or disengaged. Now I'm gonna send the kick to the kick sample. Okay, so I'm gonna send it on 4, which is the next available channel, and I'm gonna receive it on 4. So the sample kick will receive it on 4. Here we go. Okay, that was a big shift in phase, but you could tell the difference right away. Bypassed. Engaged. Okay, flip the polarity. Polarity switch. Okay, so that sounds really good. I'm gonna leave the polarity switch disengaged for the kick. Now the toms, and this is one reason why I went back to the original playlist so I can have all of the bleed, microphone bleed, to help me do the auto alignment. It looks like the top ragtime 1 is a sample, and the floor time is also a sample. This one, sample, and this one is a sample. I can see the mic bleed on here. So let me just set it here. Okay, so since this is ragtime 1, I'm going to use the left overhead to align this because I'm using drummer's perspective. Okay, so ragtime 1 would be here, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to align ragtime 1 to the left overhead, and I sent the audio from the left overhead on channel 2. So I'm going to align it, I'm going to receive it on channel 2. So left overhead. Now I'm going to solo it. And I'm going to solo this one. Okay. Receive on 2. The problem with ragtime 1 is that actually, okay, I'm going to change my mind now. I'm going to do ragtime 2, which is the normal track with the mic bleed. So, and then the overhead. Okay, there we go, left overhead. And I'm going to receive on 2. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to send ragtime 2 to ragtime 1, which is the same, it's just ragtime 1 is a sample. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to send it on the next available channel, which is channel 5. And I'm going to receive on channel 5. Sorry. Okay. Just bring this over here. But the only problem with this is I don't have a lot of audio, so I'm just going to loop it. So I flipped the face on this one and it sounds good. Okay, I'm going to leave that one. And floor tom 2, which is 10. I'm going to floor tom 2 and the floor tom sample. Do that the same thing. Shortcut. Actually, I'm going to do the overhead right. Overhead right. And I'm going to send on 6. And I'm going to receive on 6. And I don't need to loop it. Doing the floor tom, aligning it with the overhead right. So I sent it on 6, and the floor tom is receiving on 6. Okay, floor time 2, I'm going to send from this one. Send on 7. Receive on 7. Now I'm not gonna align the room mics to anything. I'm gonna align them to each other so the distance is the same. Okay, I'm gonna say send on 8, receive on 8. So now let's see what the drums sound. Let's just loop that part there. Okay, so I'm gonna select all of the drums, and I'm gonna bypass all the plugins. engaged. So you can definitely hear how the drums come together. The punch is back, and the drums sound fuller. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, I don't want to keep my plugins on here, so I'm gonna print all of these tracks, or actually, I'm just gonna commit the audio, commit up to this insert, and I'm gonna say consolidate clips. Volume and mute. No, I'm not gonna do volume. I'm just gonna do group assignments. Source tracks, we're gonna say do nothing for now, and I'll show you why. So what I want to do is I want to take these, so I have two groups. Let me see. Okay. I just want to check to make sure there was no delay. And you can see where the tracks were auto aligned, but I'm mainly concerned about my snare just now. Want to make sure it's in the same place. Snare top, which is this one here. Yep, and it is. So I'm good. So I'm gonna hide these for now. Hide and make inactive. Those were the original tracks. The only thing that I'm gonna have to do again is I'm gonna have to clean up the tracks, which is no big deal, and I'll do that real quick while you're here. I already had the settings, so I'm just gonna go. The only thing I don't like is that it did give me the kick CM, like the commit extension, but I'll leave that for now. So let's just hear it in context, make sure nothing got moved out of place.
Well, I detained myself, look back in time, didn't know where I was they still come back. Try to keep fear alive, now the time has come to leave them behind. I stand here alone and hold on to what's mine.
You can hear that the drums sound super huge, which is quite nice.